Have you ever found yourself standing at the edge, overwhelmed by challenges, tempted to give up? What if I told you that the key to true strength isn't in avoiding hardship, but in embracing it? That quiet, unshakable force within us, it's not loud or flashy. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't need the world to see it. This strength is revealed when the weight of life feels unbearable, when the silence around you grows deafening, and when the answers seem impossible to find. It's a strength that rises not in the moments of comfort or praise, but in the darkest, toughest times. The real test of character isn't how we act when everything's going well, it's how we respond when everything falls apart. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. They taught us that true strength lies in persistence, in refusing to quit, complain, or settle. Stoicism isn't about living a life of ease or comfort. It's about developing the resilience to endure whatever comes your way. It's about becoming unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you grow stronger. And in a world that constantly pushes us to give up, to shrink, to give in to the pressures, the Stoic philosophy stands as a reminder: stand tall. This isn't just a lecture or some abstract philosophy. It's a challenge, a call to arms to live better, to live stronger, to live with intention. Through the wisdom of the Stoics, we'll dive into what it truly means to never quit, never complain, and never settle. These aren't just theories. They are principles that have been forged in the fire of life's toughest trials. And if you allow them, they will transform your life. Let's begin with Chapter 1. The fire that burns within. What does it mean to never quit? According to the Stoics, for them, quitting isn't just stopping a task, it's abandoning your duty to the best version of yourself. It's betraying your own potential, your will, and your character. As Epictetus wisely said, no man is free who is not master of himself. The moment we quit on our discipline, we surrender our freedom. But here's the thing. Life will throw at you fatigue, failure, and frustration. And no, these aren't signs to retreat. They're signs to grow. These are the raw materials through which you build your strength. Every trial, the cold, the rejection, the repetition serves as your curriculum for greatness. Each time you push through exhaustion, face rejection, or continue on in uncertainty, you don't just endure, you evolve. Struggle isn't a detour, it's the path itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These aren't just empty words. This is tactical wisdom, earned through the hardships of life. Never quitting doesn't mean mindlessly pushing forward, ignoring reality. It means choosing persistence with clarity. It means taking a step back when needed, adjusting, and returning with even more resolve to your purpose, your principles, and your path, no matter how drained you feel, no matter how lost your motivation seems. The Stoic rises not because they are unshaken, but because they are grounded in something deeper than emotions. Their commitment, this is what guides them through every storm. To endure, according to Stoic philosophy, is not just about surviving. It's about resisting the collapse of your character. As we continue on this journey through Stoic wisdom, we find ourselves facing an undeniable truth. It's in the moments of adversity that our true character is forged. The Stoic path is not one of ease or comfort. It is one of persistence, alignment with values, and unwavering resolve. It's in those quiet, unseen moments when the world tempts us to bend, to compromise, to quit, that we must stand firm. Endurance isn't about simply surviving the storm. It's about growing stronger because of it. And it's this very strength that will carry us through the toughest of times. To endure is not to wait for the world to change, but to trust that the repetition of right action, even in obscurity, is slowly building something remarkable within you. It's about showing up day after day, not because we expect immediate rewards, but because we know that the process itself is shaping us. Yes, there will be pain, doubt, and moments of despair, but your spirit must remain stronger than your fleeting moods, and your purpose louder than the fears that threaten to drown you. This is what makes you unbreakable. It's in those moments, when walking away feels like the easier choice, that you truly build yourself. It's not in the victory that character is born. It's in the struggle just before you make the decision to keep going. It's in those challenging times when you lean into resistance rather than avoid it that you develop your mental, emotional, and spiritual muscle. Every time you endure what your former self would have abandoned, you carve a new edge into your character. Pain is no longer something to escape. It's something to examine. It's not an enemy, it's an invitation to grow. The Stoics taught us to cultivate grit, not by avoiding discomfort, but by staying present in it. Because true clarity doesn't just appear out of nowhere, it's earned through persistence, through walking through chaos, through making that quiet decision to keep moving forward, day after day, despite doubt, pressure, and fatigue. It's this commitment to enduring discomfort that separates the few who persist from the majority, who give up when things get tough. This is where the Stoic shines, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where no applause is given. The Stoics didn't glorify struggle for the sake of struggle. They honored perseverance as the fire where meaning is forged. They knew that the one who endures doesn't just gain achievement, but wisdom. And that wisdom, it's not found in theory or books, it's found in action. It's found in doing the work no one sees, in choosing the right thing when the easy thing tempts you. It's found in the silence of steady, consistent work. So ask yourself, what if you choose not to quit today? What might you become tomorrow? What higher level of resilience, peace, or presence might be waiting for you just on the other side of this hardship? What new strength, clarity, or self might emerge from the pain you refused to give into? What dormant potential lies behind just one more day of effort? What is truly possible when you decide that nothing, no failure, no fatigue, no fear will force you off your path? What would your life look like if you fully embraced the principle of I will not quit? Not today, not ever. This choice, repeated over and over again, doesn't just shape your outcomes, it shapes your very identity. It sculpts your soul into something that even adversity must respect. Now, take a moment and write down the one thing you're most likely to quit when things get hard. Then, write out the reasons why it matters to you. When the moment of quitting comes, and it will return to that list. Remind yourself of your why and choose to stay in the fight. Chapter 2. Discipline is Destinus Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once reminded us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. These words are not just a reminder, they are a warning. Quitting doesn't always happen in a dramatic moment. Often, it begins in subtle, quiet compromises. It starts in those small acts of self-betrayal, like skipping the gym or letting go of your goals. And over time, those small compromises add up to the greatest surrender of all, the surrender of your potential. As we continue this journey of Stoic philosophy, we come to understand the importance of the smallest actions, the ones that often go unnoticed. The Stoics warned against ignoring these small lapses in discipline, because they understood something crucial. It's not always the grand failures that shape our destiny, but the tiny compromises, repeated day after day, that lead us down the path of resignation. Ignoring your journal, letting your anger dictate your actions instead of reason. These are the moments when we lower the bar for ourselves. We justify it as rest, but in reality, we're letting comfort become a cage, trapping us in complacency. The Stoics were vigilant about these seemingly insignificant lapses because they knew that a single day's weakness, repeated over time, could evolve into a lifetime of giving up. They believed that life itself is a matter of training. To them, the soul was like a muscle, and the mind like a blade. Both need to be forged, sharpened, and maintained through consistent resistance and repetition. Nothing of lasting value is created without strain. Just as an athlete spends countless hours in unseen practice, we, too, must train daily to endure the mental, emotional, and spiritual battles ahead. But here's the catch: it's not glamorous. The real training happens in the cold mornings when your bed beckons you to stay. It's in the uncelebrated routines where no applause waits for you. It's in the quiet moments when no one is watching, and you decide to do what's necessary rather than what's convenient. Discipline is not punishment, it's preparation. It is the foundation on which true strength is built. Discipline gives us control over our time, our choices, and ultimately, our character. Without it, life drifts aimlessly. But with it, life sharpens, becomes clearer, and moves forward with purpose. To never quit, you must first become the kind of person who doesn't quit. This transformation is not a single, sudden moment of inspiration. It's the result of repeated commitment. It's a lifestyle. It's a posture toward life. It's a decision you renew every day in the face of resistance. Discipline demands more than fleeting motivation, which can disappear as quickly as it comes. Motivation cannot be relied upon when the day grows dark and difficult. Discipline demands structure, the kind of structure that holds you up when enthusiasm fades, when the morning feels heavy and the reasons for pushing forward seem far away. It's discipline that will keep you on track. It's intention staying focused on what matters, even when distractions pull at your mind and fears whisper lies into your ear. It also requires inner alignment, being congruent in thought, word, and deed. It's about mastering your mind, which is often the most unruly force we face, constantly shifting with moods and emotions. It means getting up early, even when you don't feel like it. Not because it's trendy, but because it allows you to reclaim your time from the chaos. It's saying no to distractions, even when they promise momentary pleasure, because you know they cost you your presence, your purpose. Every disciplined act is a vote for your future self. Each refusal to betray your standards is a step toward your higher self. Each moment of self-restraint is an act of self-respect. Every time you choose structure over impulse, you are casting a ballot for the person you want to become. And with each choice, that person becomes more real. Eventually, this person emerges not by chance, but by design, sculpted by thousands of unseen decisions. And when you feel the pull to stop, when your willpower begins to fade and the excuses start to sound reasonable, remember this: you are not alone. You are walking a path that countless others have walked before you. Some walked in silence, some through hardship, some in the face of great suffering. But all have learned the same eternal truth. Endurance is not something that is granted to us. It is something we earn. Every Stoic before you, kings, slaves, philosophers, and generals, has faced the same resistance. The circumstances may have varied greatly, but the battles they fought were just as human as yours. They were not superheroes. They were not immune to fear or doubt. What set them apart was their commitment. They chose to endure when the easier option was to give up. They chose to rise when everything inside them screamed for comfort. Let their example become your encouragement. Let their legacy remind you that strength is not born, but built. It's built in the quiet hours when no one is applauding. In the unseen choices made without recognition. Strength is forged through the repeated decision to persist, no matter how small the steps may seem. Because every small step forward matters. Every quiet moment of resilience adds to the foundation that can hold up the weight of a meaningful life. And that foundation doesn't become unshakable because it never faced a storm. It becomes unshakable because it stood firm through every storm. You won't be defined by how many times you felt like quitting. You will be defined by how often you chose not to quit. Choose one disciplined action this week that you've been avoiding. Track it daily. Hold yourself accountable as though your life depended on it, because, in many ways, it does. Chapter 3. Obstacles are the test. Stoics never saw adversity as misfortune. They saw it as opportunity, raw, unshaped, and often uncomfortable. They believed that difficulty wasn't just inevitable, it was essential. It's not the easy path that reveals our character. It's the hard one, as Marcus Aurelius taught. The obstacle is not in the way, it is the way. What you run from is often the very thing meant to forge you into someone greater. This wasn't just a metaphor for the Stoics, it was a lived experience. They believed that you don't grow in spite of obstacles, but because of them. Every time life tests you, you are faced with a choice. Will you rise or will you retreat? Will you see hardship as a reason to stop or as a call to rise? The Stoics would tell you to rise because that moment is your teacher. The rejection, the injury, the failure, all of it is refining you into something greater. You don't know who you are until you're tested. And it's only through resistance that the strength within you is revealed. Each trial, each difficulty, contains within it the possibility of transformation if only you stay long enough to listen, to learn, and to grow. When you quit, you rob yourself of the very thing that could transform you. You abandon your growth just before it has the chance to break through. You surrender your potential for the sake of temporary relief. But when you stay, when you lean into the pressure, the discomfort, the resistance, you unlock new strength. You discover a depth of resilience that would have remained hidden if you had walked away. That strength is not given to you. It is summoned from within by your refusal to be broken. The Stoic does not resist pain because they enjoy it, they endure it because they see beyond it. They are working towards something more permanent, the maturity of the soul. The man who never quits is not fearless. He feels the fear. He feels the doubt. But he does not obey them. He doesn't let them dictate the course of his life. He simply recognizes that courage only exists in the presence of fear. And it's his decision to rise above that fear that defines him. The stranger who's struggling quietly, looking for a sign that it's possible to keep going. Whether we realize it or not, our actions, our persistence, our courage, our resilience affect those around us. We are part of something bigger than ourselves. And the Stoic understands this deeply. Their commitment isn't driven by personal gain or pleasure, but by duty, a duty to something greater than their own comfort. In the face of fear, we often confuse the absence of emotion with strength. But in reality, strength isn't about being emotionless. It's about choosing to move forward despite the tremble in your hands, despite the ache in your chest. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the act of continuing, of standing tall. When your legs feel like they might give way, of speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. Courage is about acting even when every part of you wants to hide. True strength is born in these moments. The Stoic does not wait for fear to vanish before acting. No, they act through it. They walk with fear, side by side, choosing to engage with it, to stare it in the face, and say, "You may stay, but you won't stop me." The Stoic rises not in the absence of adversity, but precisely in the presence of it. This is the essence of Stoic resolve, the quiet defiance that whispers, "Not today, I am still here." The Stoic warrior is not invincible. They are not untouched by pain or fear, but they are unyielding. They are not armored against hardship, but rather weathered by it, shaped, matured, and refined through the trials they endure. Their strength doesn't come from pretending that things are easy. It comes from showing up even when they're not. It comes from a commitment to the process, not the outcome. They live not for victory alone, but for the discipline of showing up, of continuing on the path regardless of the challenges. Their identity is not built on results, but on relentless presence. This is the Stoic way. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to surrender to it. So, think of one obstacle you are facing right now. Reframe it. Write down how this very challenge could become your advantage. How might it teach you, sharpen you, strengthen you? Then take one action today that embraces it, instead of resisting it. Chapter 4. The role of dutide Stoics didn't just act for themselves, they acted from a sense of duty. Their choices were not centered around pleasure, applause, or convenience. Marcus Aurelius, who governed an empire under unimaginable pressure, reminded himself daily that his role was not to enjoy life, but to fulfill it. He wrote, "When you rise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." He understood that life was not owed to him, and each day was not a burden, it was a calling. His sense of duty grounded him amidst the chaos. While others sought ease, he sought to serve. While others waited for perfect conditions, he moved forward with imperfect strength, powered by purpose. This deep sense of duty connects us to something greater than our own comfort and personal desires. And when we connect our efforts to something larger than ourselves, quitting becomes less tempting. We begin to see that our lives are not isolated units of existence. We are threads in a larger fabric, and our strength or lack of it affects the weave of everything around us. Our daily choices contribute to a larger story, our ability to persist, to rise each day with intention, becomes more than just self-preservation. It becomes an act of service. Our actions ripple outward in ways we may never fully see. The words we speak, the discipline we practice, the courage we embody, all of these become echoes in someone else's life. Maybe it's a child watching, learning what it means to be consistent and dependable in a chaotic world. Maybe it's a colleague, quietly measuring whether to keep pushing or to walk away. Perhaps it's someone else's silent struggle, and you don't even realize it, but your strength gives them the courage to keep going. In a world filled with distractions and fleeting trends, the most powerful thing we can offer others is not our words or our accolades, but our example. Think of a stranger on the edge of giving up, who just needs one example of resilience to hold on, someone living proof that strength is not some mythical trait, it's something we practice, something we choose, something we embody. Be that example. Be the reason someone believes that strength still exists in this world. Be the signal fire that reminds others not to surrender. Be the proof that principles can still triumph over convenience, that real power lies not in control, but in courage, not in domination, but in integrity. Duty means showing up, even when it's inconvenient. It means stepping forward when you're tired, when the path is unclear, when your emotions beg you to retreat. It means choosing principle over preference, choosing action over avoidance, and values over validation. It means doing the work even when no one is watching, when there's no recognition waiting at the end, not for praise, but because it's the right thing to do. Duty means standing firm in your word, not because it impresses others, but because it aligns you with your highest self. It means holding yourself accountable not just to people, but to a standard that holds. Even when the spotlight fades, duty means honoring your commitments. Even when the excitement has worn off, when the passion has cooled, and when the rewards aren't immediate. It means returning again and again to the promises you made to yourself and to others, even when your emotions no longer support those promises. It means resisting the seductive pull of ease when every part of you wants to disengage. It means acting from a place of principle, not preference, from your higher self, not your weaker moments. It means standing guard at the door of your values, refusing to let them erode under fatigue, frustration, or outside influence. Your values are your fortress. When you leave them unattended, you leave yourself unprotected. To uphold duty is to stand as a sentinel over your character. It's to carry a sense of mission into the mundane, to see importance even in repetition. It's saying yes to the hard thing again and again, not because it feels good, but because it makes you good. It means carrying your principles like a torch through the darkness so others can see the path, and so that you never forget your way. That torch, however heavy, lights the way for generations. You may not always see the lives your example touches, but rest assured, the impact of living with integrity will echo. It's the father whose silent steadiness teaches his son how to remain grounded. It's the friend whose unwavering loyalty makes others feel safe. It's the leader whose reliability sets the rhythm of trust. Duty is not glamour, it's grit. It's the long haul, the hidden labor, the steady hand. It's a responsibility and an honor. It's the invisible legacy we leave behind, the quiet leadership of example, and the moral architecture of daily life. Duty asks more of us than we think we can give, but in answering its call, we become more than we ever imagined. Perhaps the most noble kind of power we can wield is not control over others, but consistency within ourselves. When the noise of the world fades, when trends disappear, and when the applause dies down, what will remain is the steady rhythm of a life lived with duty. In a world where many chase influence, those who embody duty will always carry the true weight of respect, the kind that is felt in silence, remembered long after words fade, the kind of strength that makes a soul unforgettable. What legacy do you want to leave? What standard do you want to set in your family, community, or craft? Define your duty. Who relies on your strength? Anchor yourself to that vision every time you want to quit. Chapter 5. The Power of the Present Struggleites. Easy to quit when you're living in the past or the future. When your mind is haunted by what could have been or overwhelmed by what might come, you remove yourself from the only place you have any power right now. The Stoics understood this well. They trained themselves with absolute urgency to stay grounded in the present moment because they knew that ruminating on the past breeds guilt, and obsessing about the future creates anxiety. But the present, that's where your hands can shape, your breath can center, and your will can act. Right now is all you have. Not tomorrow, not next week. This breath, this choice, Marcus Aurelius advised. Confine yourself to the present. This isn't about passive acceptance. It's about active engagement. It's a radical form of courage to be fully present with your pain, your confusion, your doubt, and not run from them. The present moment holds all the tools you need to grow, but only if you're willing to look, feel, and act within it. The temptation to escape into the past or jump ahead to the future is seductive. It removes us from the discomfort of now. But the Stoics knew better. Presence is the battleground. It is where we meet our fears, tame our impulses, and choose the next right action, not the easiest one. When you are fully present, you realize that most struggles are endurable. You notice that fear shrinks when examined. Uncertainty softens when faced head-on, They lose their power when you confront them directly. The mountain that once appeared so massive from a distance becomes just one step and then another and another. This is how real strength is built, through deliberate, grounded action. You don't need to conquer the entire mountain today. Just take one step. Then take another tomorrow. Presence turns the impossible into the manageable. The overwhelming becomes attainable. Quitting often feels like relief, but it's a mirage. It's the illusion of rest when what you really need is resolve. It's the soft lure of false safety, of stepping back not to gather strength, but to avoid the friction of transformation. It's the false comfort of escape when the very pain you're trying to flee is actually the gateway to your evolution. Pain is not your punishment. It's your path. It teaches, sharpens, and reveals the gaps in your strength not to shame you, but to show you where to grow. Quitting is not an escape. It's the forfeiting of the very opportunity that suffering offers. It's the comfort of turning away from growth, of choosing stillness, not because it's peaceful, but because it's safe, predictable, and void of discomfort. But the moment you turn away, you also turn away from the version of yourself you are capable of becoming. You turn away from the stronger, wiser, and clearer version of yourself that lives on the other side of difficulty. Growth doesn't hide in the future or dwell in the past. It rises from the soil of the now. It's born in action, watered by effort, and fed by persistence. The present moment, though difficult, is trying to hand you the tools you need to transform. For your transformation, your trials are not without meaning. Each test you face is shaping you. Every struggle is a forge, and you are being sculpted by it. You are being refined. Stay with it. Struggle with it. Wrestle with your limits. Breathe through the tension. Sit with the discomfort. Speak your truth when it's hard. Take the action that feels heavy. Meet your edge and stay there. Push it a little further. This is where change begins, not in retreat, not in avoidance, but in the heart of pressure. Every great transformation is born in the fire of the present difficulty. That fire forges strength, burns away illusion, and reveals what you're really made of. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't care about your timeline. It simply offers the raw material for growth and asks if you're willing to engage with it. That fire doesn't test you to break you. It tests you to refine you. It's the place where excuses are exposed, where clarity is carved out of chaos, and where resilience is earned, not given. The heat of the moment may feel unbearable, but it is the very thing that shapes the steel of your character. It demands something from you, not perfection, but presence, not grand gestures, but quiet consistency. That fire asks for your patience, your attention, your humility. It asks you to lean in instead of pulling away, to listen more closely to your own soul, to bring your full self, even when you feel fractured or fatigued. It asks you to stop waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect feeling, and instead trust that showing up fully is more powerful than showing up flawlessly. It doesn't need flawless execution. It needs your full participation. It doesn't care how messy your effort looks. It only asks that your effort be sincere and your heart engaged. It needs your willingness to stay with what's hard instead of fleeing to what's easy. It needs your discipline, when motivation leaves you, your breath when panic rises, your grounding when everything feels unstable. It's in those moments, when everything inside you says quit, that your greatest breakthrough often sits quietly, waiting behind your refusal to give up. You can only become who you are meant to be by staying rooted in the here and now, by doing the hard thing now. Not later, not when you feel better, not when life gets easier, not when the world calms down, or you feel ready. Readiness rarely arrives before action, it is summoned by it. Now. Now is where life happens. Readiness is often born from movement, not before it. Momentum generates clarity. Action builds confidence. Repetition strengthens resolve. And every future you dream of, every goal, every breakthrough, every victory depends on the step you take. Today, not someday. Not when conditions are perfect, but now. Always now. Because the present moment is not only where your life happens, it is where your transformation is waiting. The fire of now doesn't just test who you are, it forges who you're becoming. Practice presence under pressure. When you feel the urge to give up, pause. Breathe. Bring your awareness fully to the moment. Say to yourself, "This is where I build my strength." Then take the smallest next step forward. Chapter 6. The burden of bitterness. To complain is to resist reality without offering a solution. It is to relive pain without making progress, to rehearse injury without seeking healing. Complaining gives voice to your frustration, but it doesn't bring any clarity or resolution. It keeps you stuck in the past, unable to move forward. Frustration offers no path forward. It may express dissatisfaction, but it keeps us trapped, circling in an endless loop without progress. The Stoics believed that complaint is the voice of an untrained mind, one that hasn't yet learned to separate what is within our control from what is not. For them, a complaint wasn't just a moment of frustration. It was a signal that the mind was focused outward instead of inward. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The event itself is neutral. Our response to it is where power or powerlessness is decided. Complaining anchors us to victimhood, keeping us trapped in a cycle of powerlessness. It convinces us that the external world must change for us to find peace, that life owes us comfort, fairness, and an ideal outcome. We begin to believe that our emotional stability depends on everything outside of us behaving perfectly. This mindset feeds weakness and numbs our initiative. But the Stoics flipped the script. They taught that peace doesn't come from controlling the world, it comes from mastering our response to it. To complain is to experience the injury twice. Once through the reality of the situation, and then again through endless rumination. We experience the event, and then we relive it in our minds, adding judgment, commentary, and resentment. The Stoic seeks to end this cycle not by denying pain, but by engaging with it differently. They choose interpretation over impulse, reflection over reaction. They treat hardship like a craftsman treats raw material, not with scorn, but with an eye for transformation. The mind that complains has not yet turned inward. It's still looking outward for justice, fairness, or waiting for the world to deliver balance instead of building internal stability. But life is not fair. and nature owes us nothing. Expecting fairness from fate is like asking the sea not to be wet. Suffering is a part of the human experience, not its exception. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This realization was his armor. He faced wars, plagues, betrayal, and loss, but he did not curse the sky. Instead, he turned inward, focusing on what he could control: his thoughts, his choices, his perspective. This wasn't passive surrender. It was powerful ownership. The complaint dies when responsibility is born. And responsibility begins when we stop narrating the pain and start using it. When we say, "This is mine to carry. Let me carry it well, not with resentment, but with resolve, not to be admired, but to be strong." To live without complaint is not to live without struggle. It is to choose strength over sorrow, posture over pity, and action over noise. It's to understand that struggle is not a reason to retreat, but a reason to engage more deeply. The Stoic knows that the world will not always be kind, that fate will not always favor them, but they do not hand over their peace to circumstance. They do not depend on fairness to be good or ease to be strong. They understand that their character is forged not by what happens, but by how they meet it. They accept the moment and ask, "What can I do now?" This is not silence. It is action, not repression, but redirection. They take the sting of frustration and transform it into the fuel for growth. They take hardship and make it a forge. They stop expecting comfort and start creating character. In doing so, they not only become more resilient, but they also become more useful to themselves, to their community, and to the world. They become the kind of person others can look to when life gets hard, not because they complain, but because they've chosen courage instead. Spend one day without a single complaint, not one word of frustration, not one sigh of disapproval. At the end of the day, reflect on what changed in your energy, your posture, your clarity. This is your glimpse into power reclaimed. Chapter 7. The language of strength. Words shape perception, and the words we choose, especially under pressure, reveal the architecture of our mindset. The Stoics were masters of restraint, not just in action, but in speech. Because to complain is not just to describe a situation, it's to judge it. It's to react to it. It's to invest emotion into a story that often deepens suffering. Words are not simply sounds. They are symbols, signals, choices. The Stoics knew that language is never neutral. What we say, we reinforce. What we repeat, we begin to believe. What we believe, we begin to live. And what we live, we become. When we say, "I can't take this," we shrink our capacity before it's truly tested. When we mutter, "This isn't fair," we position ourselves against life, rather than beside it. These phrases may seem small, even harmless, but repeated often enough, they train the mind to recoil from adversity instead of confronting it. They plant seeds of weakness, which grow into habits of helplessness. Complaining weakens the soul, not only because it avoids responsibility, but because it reprograms the way we interpret reality. The problem is not only the pain, but the story we attach to it. Words can chain us to a problem or unlock our power to rise above it. Stoic strength is silent strength, not repressed, but refined. It does not shout to prove its presence. It speaks with intention, with purpose, with clarity. Seneca advised that speech in defense of philosophy should be simple and unpretentious. What he meant was that wisdom doesn't need drama. Courage doesn't whine. Purpose doesn't panic. A mind trained in Stoicism speaks less to be heard and more to be effective. It uses words to guide, not to grumble. It instructs, not inflates. It reflects, not rants. It speaks to build bridges of meaning, not to echo. The noise of complaint. Complaining is loud and sloppy. It spills emotion without discipline. It seeks validation without offering resolution. But the Stoic approach is different. It filters language through principle. It slows the tongue to sharpen the thought before speaking. Ask yourself, is this useful? Is this true? Is this necessary? If not, it may be better left unsaid. The warrior of the mind speaks with restraint not because they fear expression, but because they respect it. They understand the weight of words and wield them with care. Their words build, clarify, and elevate. Their silence speaks volumes. And when they speak of pain, they speak with purpose, not to pity themselves, but to share strength. Their language is their leadership. Their words become a mirror of their inner discipline, a daily reflection of their training. And their truth. Audit your words. Pay attention to what you say when you're under pressure. Are they helping you grow, or are they reinforcing habits of weakness? For one full day, write down the phrases you often say under stress. Are they empowering? Are they honest? Are they anchored in responsibility or blame? Replace complaints with questions. Instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What can I learn?" Instead of thinking, "This is too much," say, "This is my training ground." Your tongue reveals your training. Let it show your strength. Chapter 8. Comparison is poison. Of the quietest forms of complaint is comparison. When we look at others and feel diminished. When we measure our lives against someone else's highlight reel. We're not only insulting our own path, but we're giving our peace away. The Stoics warned against the dangers of envy and jealousy, not because they are morally wrong, but because they are emotionally useless. Comparison steals the present moment and replaces it with resentment. Seneca put it plainly, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And often, we crave more not because we truly need it, but because someone else has it. Comparison trains the mind to see lack where there is abundance. It reprograms our gratitude into grievance. The Stoic path is not about being indifferent to progress, but about measuring your progress by your own standard, not by another's timeline. When you complain through comparison, you are essentially saying, "My life is not good enough unless it looks like theirs." That is a dangerous surrender. It erodes agency and buries uniqueness. The Stoic sees this clearly. They remember that each person walks their own path, with their own burdens and blessings. No life is truly as perfect as it appears, and no peace can be built on someone else's foundation. To free ourselves from the trap of comparison, we must redirect our attention inward. Am I living according to my values? Am I doing what I can with what I have? Am I improving not just my circumstances, but my character? These are the only comparisons worth making. The rest are distractions that drain your discipline. Every time you catch yourself comparing, pause. Say aloud, "That is not my path." Then, return your focus to your next right step. Comparison is a thief, but focus is a forge. Chapter 9. The discipline of gratitude. Gratitude is not the denial of difficulty. It is the refusal to be defined by it. It is the conscious act of seeing light in the midst of shadows, of finding value even in the trenches of struggle. The Stoics practiced gratitude not in the absence of hardship, but in its presence. They saw thankfulness as a form of spiritual discipline, a way of refusing to let what is missing overshadow what is present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." In other words, the power to reframe is always in your hands. When you choose to focus on what remains, you strengthen your capacity to carry what's difficult. We complain when we forget that this moment, however flawed, is a moment some people are praying for. That this breath, however anxious, is still a gift. That this body, however tired, is still capable. That simply waking up with a chance to try again is a privilege, not a burden. That to struggle is to be alive. That to feel is to still have a pulse. We forget that there are countless others who would give anything to be in our shoes, to have the chance to grow, to face the challenges we complain about. Gratitude is the antidote to this blindness. It grounds us, shifts our perspective, and reminds us of what we have right now. And that is the foundation on which true strength is built. People fighting battles we don't see, carrying burdens heavier than ours, and still managing to find beauty in small things like a warm cup of tea, a morning breeze, or a single quiet moment of peace. Gratitude is clarity. It restores perspective when fear clouds the mind. It humbles the ego and burns away the fog of entitlement. It pulls our attention away from what's lacking and centers it on what's lasting. It interrupts the spiral of self-pity and sharpens the voice of wisdom. It says, "Look at what is still here, instead of what you've lost." Gratitude gently reminds you that enough exists in this moment, if you are willing to see it. And when practiced consistently, gratitude builds resilience, like a muscle stronger with repetition, steadier under pressure. It is a kind of emotional armor, grown through trials, tested in uncertainty, and matured by time. Gratitude is not a reaction, but a readiness. The more you practice it, the more it becomes your natural lens, your instinctual posture. When life becomes heavy, gratitude changes how we carry hardship. It allows us to hold pain with open hands, not clenched fists. It turns moments of irritation into moments of insight. It transforms routine into ritual. It gives meaning to effort. It doesn't numb us to pain, but it prevents pain from becoming bitterness. It doesn't make problems disappear, but it shifts our relationship to them, so they become part of the journey, not the reason to give up. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain. It meets it with grace. It acknowledges difficulty, but refuses to be imprisoned by it. It says, yes, this is hard, but I'm still here. And that means there's still something to be honored, something to be salvaged, something to be strengthened. It reframes survival as sacred. It says there's still something to build, something to carry forward. In this way, gratitude becomes a quiet kind of courage. It is not loud or dramatic. It is grounded, steady, enduring. It is a silent rebellion against despair. It gives us access to joy without needing our circumstances to change. It allows us to carry our burdens with dignity, face our hardships with perspective, and find power not in perfection, but in presence. Gratitude doesn't remove adversity. It reframes it. It turns tragedy into testimony. It gives meaning to the mundane and purpose to the pain. The Stoic does not wake up waiting to feel thankful. They create the feeling by directing attention. They take their mind by the hand and point it toward what is working, what is worthy, and what is meaningful. They remind themselves that everything they have is temporary, and so nothing should be taken for granted. They focus on what is left, not what has been taken. They give thanks for opportunities to endure, to act, to rise. Because every day that allows us to practice our values is a day to be grateful. Even suffering becomes sacred when it refines us. Even setbacks become sacred when they reveal strength. Even the stillness between chapters in life is sacred when we see it through the eyes of gratitude. Complaint robs energy. Gratitude restores it. One drains your soul. The other fuels it. Gratitude is not an emotion. It is an orientation, a deliberate decision to see beyond what is missing, and instead draw strength from what remains. Chase more. Gratitude teaches us to honor what we already have right now. In this breath, in this moment. It is how the Stoic transforms scarcity into sufficiency, hardship into harmony, and survival into something noble. Begin or end each day by writing 3 things you are genuinely grateful for. Not vague, hollow affirmations, but sincere recognitions. If your day was hard, find what refined you. If it was easy, find what centered you. Let gratitude be your discipline, not your mood. Chapter 10. Never settle is to never stop striving for the best within you, not the best measured by applause or results, but the best measured by principle. The Stoics believed that excellence, or merit, was the highest goal. It meant virtue in action, character lived out day after day, regardless of recognition. It wasn't a finish line. It was a way of being, a discipline of the soul. To settle is to abandon that pursuit. It is to exchange potential for comfort, integrity for approval, progress for familiarity. It is to give up the journey for the illusion of rest, and that illusion, seductive as it may seem, is the true enemy of greatness. It tempts you with ease while quietly draining your edge. Settling is the soft surrender we don't even notice until we've drifted far from who we intended to become. When we settle, we quietly agree to stop evolving. We lower the standard, not because it's wise, but because it's easy, and ease, unchecked, becomes erosion. The Stoics warned of this. The soul, like a blade, dulls when unused. They didn't chase perfection, they chased consistency. Not grandeur, but goodness. Not comfort, but clarity. They knew that excellence is not a moment, it's a habit forged in repetition and reflection. To never settle means holding yourself to a standard even when no one is watching. It means asking more of yourself, even when the world asks for less. It means doing the hard thing, not for glory, but for growth. It is a personal contract between who you are and who you could become, a commitment to the inner flame, even when the path is cold. Settling is not about circumstances. It is about mindset. You can live in humble means and still hold high standards. You can face failure and still refuse to dilute your discipline. You can be overlooked by the world and still remain faithful to your craft. The Stoic does not measure success by winning. They measure it by the purity of effort, the depth of intention, and the courage to continue. They ask themselves, did I give everything I could with honor? If the answer is yes, that is enough. That is victory regardless of the outcome. To the Stoic, every moment of effort is sacred even if no one applauds it, even if no one sees it. Because the soul sees, and the soul remembers. To never settle is to see your time as sacred, your energy as valuable, your potential as real. Every second is a deposit into the life you are creating, and to squander it is to betray the quiet fire within you that knows you were meant for more. It is to live as if your life matters because it does, not just to others, but to you. You have a responsibility to yourself to become who you're capable of becoming. It is to reject mediocrity not with arrogance, but with devotion to what is possible. Not because you are entitled to greatness, but because you are called to growth. You are not here to coast. You are not here to repeat. You are here to rise, and that rising must be chosen every single day. Not just once, but again and again, in the overlooked spaces of your life. In the invisible moments that seem ordinary but shape your character. In how you hold yourself during quiet hours, when no audience applauds and no feedback follows. In how you keep promises that no one else knows about, not because someone will find out, but because your word matters to you. It's in how you train your thoughts gently, but firmly redirecting them. When they wander toward weakness, when they start crafting excuses instead of strategies. It's in how you show up when it's hard, and when it's tempting to give only half. In how you resist cutting corners. In how you speak to yourself when you fall short, whether you extend grace or weaponize shame. It's in how you rebound after failure, and choose to keep your standard high, to refuse to let disappointment become your default. To never settle means constantly calling yourself back to alignment, especially when the world isn't watching. To never settle is to make excellence your practice and virtue your reward. It's to live with a kind of sacred commitment to your growth, a quiet ongoing promise to show up fully, to do what's right even when it's invisible, and to hold yourself to the truth you know in your bones. It is not about being flawless. It's about being faithful to your growth. It's about striving not because you hate who you are, but because you love who you're becoming. It's to say through action that you will not abandon the work of becoming, not now, not ever. You will not let the discomfort of growth convince you to compromise with comfort. You will not trade your values for convenience. You will not shrink to fit comfort. You will not numb to escape pressure. You will not let the noise of the world drown out the clarity of your calling. You will lean in. You will endure. You will stand again and again. You will choose the path that demands more from you, because you know it will bring out the best in you. You will take the long way not because it's easier, but because it's honest, because shortcuts shrink your spirit and discipline builds it. To never settle is to remember, in the moments that most tempt you to settle, that your soul was built for more. You are always in the process of becoming. You are the architect of your inner life, and excellence is not a destination, but a decision made every hour, every test, every step. Keep choosing. Keep rising. Identify one area where you've been settling, whether in your habits, your standards, or your self-respect. Name it clearly. Then define what excellence would look like in that area. Take one deliberate step today toward that standard. Never settle, not because you must be perfect, but because you were never meant to stay small. If you've been moved by this message, like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Capsule. Join us in our journey to strive for excellence and build a life of purpose. Stay committed, keep growing, and remember the path to greatness begins with you.